In 260 BC, Changping fell silent, not with the hush of peace, but with the permanent extinguishment of 400,000 voices. Zhao's largest army was not just defeated by the efficient Qin, it was buried alive, a consequence of cold, ruthless ambition. Welcome to the History Atlas. Today, we delve into the Battle of Changping, a conflict so devastating it reshaped Chinese history and revealed the true cost of total war. The massacre at Changping did not emerge from a vacuum. It was the brutal culmination of nearly 2 centuries of relentless warfare, a period known as the Warring States, from 475 to 221 BC. This was no era of minor skirmishes, but a grinding machine of conflict that forged hardened states and ruthless leaders. 7 major powers vied for supremacy across ancient China, with the western state of Qin and the northern power of Zhao standing as the most formidable contenders. Qin, driven by its strict legalist philosophy, had become a centralized military state. Its governance prioritized agriculture and war, fostering a meritocracy that rewarded efficiency and expansion above all else. Its armies were relentlessly pragmatic, innovative in siegecraft and logistics, and utterly without sentiment in their pursuit of total victory. Zhao, while not as singularly focused, was a proud and powerful rival. Under King Wuling, Zhao adopted nomadic cavalry tactics, transforming its military into a highly mobile and effective fighting force, particularly skilled in open-field engagements. The stage for Changping was set in 262 BC by a seemingly minor territorial dispute. The small state of Han, facing imminent annexation by Qin, desperately offered the strategic territory of Shangdang to its insatiable western neighbor. However, the local people of Shangdang, fearing Qin's brutal rule, defied Han's decision. They offered their loyalty, and their lands, to Zhao instead. Shangdang was more than just land. It represented a vital buffer, providing access to the central plains. For Qin, it was a necessary step in its grand design for unification. For Zhao, accepting Shangdang meant drawing a line in the sand, directly challenging Qin's expansion. This act of defiance transformed the geopolitical chessboard, igniting a conflict that would redefine the stakes of total war. As the Qin army pushed deeper into Zhao territory, the conflict at Changping coalesced around 2 formidable commanders, each embodying a starkly different military philosophy. For Qin, the initial command fell to Wang He, a veteran general seasoned by their aggressive, decisive campaigns. He was a capable tactician, accustomed to breaking enemy lines through sheer force and relentless advance. Yet, he perhaps lacked the ultimate, cold ruthlessness that defined Qin's most feared strategists. Opposing him was Lian Po, one of Zhao's most revered figures, a general counted among the 4 lords of the Warring States. His reputation rested on sagacity and an almost impregnable defensive genius. Lian Po immediately understood the danger of a direct confrontation with Qin's superior infantry. Instead, he ordered the construction of a vast, intricate network of fortifications. Deep, wide trenches snaked across the mountains and valleys surrounding Changping. Walls rose on strategic ridges, strongholds guarded every choke point. His strategy was clear: refuse open battle, wear down the Qin army through attrition, and exploit the immense logistical strain of maintaining a distant army. Wang He, accustomed to swift victories, launched repeated probes and skirmishes, attempting to dislodge Lian Po or force a decisive engagement. But Zhao's defenses held fast. Lian Po's well-entrenched and disciplined men repelled every assault, inflicting casualties while preserving their own strength. What followed was not a battle, but a grinding war of attrition that stretched for nearly 3 years, from 262 to 260 BC. The landscape around Changping became a vast, scarred tableau of constant, low-intensity conflict. Disease festered in both camps, supplies dwindled, and soldiers' morale was tested daily by the sheer monotony and sudden, brutal violence of border skirmishes. Both Qin and Zhao bled men and resources into this immense deadlock. Millions of taels of silver, tons of grain, and hundreds of thousands of lives were consumed, with no end in sight. The question hung heavy over both capitals: who would break first? What force, what strategy, could possibly shatter this monumental stalemate? The grinding stalemate at Changping, now stretching into its 3rd year, tested the resolve of both states. For Qin, known for its rapid, decisive campaigns, the financial drain was immense and politically unsustainable. Their prime minister, Fan Zhu, understood a direct military breakthrough was proving too costly. He orchestrated a new campaign, not on the battlefield, but in the heart of Zhao's royal court. Fan Zhu initiated a cunning psychological operation. Qin agents and bribed Zhao ministers subtly disseminated rumors. These whispers painted General Lian Po as old, overly cautious, and ineffective, accusing him of cowardice for refusing direct engagement. His defensive lines, they claimed, were not a strategy, but a stagnation, bleeding Zhao dry while Qin merely waited. Against this backdrop, Zhao Kuo, son of the esteemed General Zhao Shi, emerged. Young, educated in military theory, and burning with ambition, he boasted of his tactical prowess, proclaiming he could defeat Qin where Lian Po had failed. His father, a true master of war, had famously warned that his son spoke of war like a man speaks of hunger without ever having tasted food. But Zhao Kuo's arrogance blinded him to such wisdom. He once reportedly declared, "Lian Po's strategy is for aged women. I shall sweep the Qin army from the field with a single bold thrust." King Xiaocheng of Zhao, weary of the protracted war and its exorbitant cost, grew susceptible to these insidious narratives. Pressure from his court, many secretly swayed by Qin's gold and the promise of a swift victory, mounted relentlessly. Blinded by impatience and a desperate hope for resolution, the king made his most profound strategic error. Lian Po, Zhao's proven shield, was summarily dismissed. In his place, Zhao Kuo, untested in the harsh crucible of command, was appointed to lead an army poised on the precipice of disaster. The stage was set for an unraveling. With Lian Po's cautious strategy abandoned, the newly appointed Zhao Kuo wasted no time. Driven by untested arrogance and a theoretical understanding of warfare, he immediately broke from the 3-year stalemate. His objective was clear: a decisive, glorious victory. Zhao Kuo pushed his vast army forward, forsaking the painstakingly constructed defenses, convinced a direct assault would shatter the Qin lines and end the war swiftly. His forces advanced, a wave of eager, if misguided, determination. Unbeknownst to Zhao Kuo, King Zhaozhang of Qin had already initiated a masterful counterstroke. Recognizing the stalemate's immense cost and the necessity of swift resolution, the king secretly replaced General Wang He with the empire's most formidable commander, Bai Qi. Strict orders forbade anyone from revealing Bai Qi's presence, ensuring his identity remained a chilling secret from the Zhao. Bai Qi, a man whose name would become synonymous with ruthless efficiency, allowed Zhao Kuo's initial thrust to proceed. Instead of meeting it head-on, Qin forces executed a feigned retreat. This tactical deception drew the overconfident Zhao Kuo deeper into hostile territory. Zhao Kuo, interpreting this withdrawal as a sign of Qin weakness, pressed his advantage with greater fervor, convinced he was breaking the enemy. As the Zhao army pursued, Bai Qi orchestrated his trap. Small Qin units engaged in skirmishes and diversions, further distracting Zhao Kuo and masking the true maneuver. 2 elite Qin units, each comprising 25,000 hardened soldiers, moved with silent precision around Zhao Kuo's flanks. One force swept wide, circling to the Zhao army's rear, severing their vital supply lines, cutting off wagons of grain and sources of water. The other unit established fortified positions between Zhao Kuo's main army and their original, now abandoned, defensive works, effectively blocking any path of retreat. The trap, built with meticulous planning and executed by unseen hands, was closing. The trap sprung shut with chilling precision. Zhao Kuo's offensive, begun with bluster, had led his massive army directly into Bai Qi's snare. The Zhao forces found themselves encircled within a deep valley near Changping. Qin's elite units anchored fortified lines across every exit. Ditches were dug, palisades erected. The immediate, devastating consequence: severed supply routes. No grain, no water, no reinforcements reached the entrapped legions. Initial shock gave way to a dawning, terrible realization: they were completely cut off. What followed was a siege of attrition by time and hunger. For 46 agonizing days, the Zhao army withered. Gnawing hunger became a constant, burning agony. Thirst consumed them. Disease swept through the weakened ranks, adding to the stench of desperation. Hope flickered and died. Accounts record soldiers resorting to cannibalism, a horrifying testament to their plight. Within the valley, their world narrowed to a desperate struggle for survival against an invisible, unyielding foe. Far away, King Xiaocheng of Zhao, ignorant of the full horror, ordered relief forces. Yet, each attempt to breach Qin's iron ring met insurmountable resistance. Qin's outer fortifications held firm. Their disciplined soldiers repulsed every desperate sally from within and every push from without. These failures only deepened the despair, confirming the inescapable prison. Zhao Kuo, his arrogance replaced by chilling realization, launched a series of desperate breakout attempts. He rallied his starving, diseased men, urging them to punch through the Qin lines. Again and again, they hurled themselves against the unyielding fortifications. Each charge, fueled by the last vestiges of strength, met only a torrent of arrows and a wall of spears. Casualties mounted by tens of thousands, as the trapped army bled itself dry. These were not tactical maneuvers, but the death throes of a suffocating host. Finally, on the 46th day, with his army a shadow of its former self, Zhao Kuo made one last, desperate gamble. He personally led a charge at the forefront of his remaining units, aiming for a breach that would never come. It was not an act of valor, but of utter, hopeless despair. Starved soldiers followed their general. Qin archers unleashed volleys. Zhao Kuo, the theoretical general whose hubris had doomed an army, fell under a hail of arrows, his life extinguished in the final, futile surge. His death marked the end of all hope. The protracted stalemate at Changping broke not with a sudden assault, but from the convergence of strategic missteps and brilliant gambits. It began with Zhao Kuo's fateful order to abandon established defenses for a full-scale offensive. This decision was born of hubris. The second, irrevocable moment was when Qin's flanking units successfully cut Zhao Kuo's supply lines and simultaneously blocked his retreat. This transformed the engagement from combat into a protracted siege of attrition, for which the Zhao army, starving and encircled, was utterly unprepared. Bai Qi's unseen hand had closed the cage. After 46 days of unimaginable torment within the valley, with Zhao Kuo dead and all hope extinguished, the remaining Zhao army finally capitulated. 400,000 men, emaciated and broken, laid down their arms before Bai Qi, Qin's god of slaughter. The scale of the surrender was unprecedented, presenting Bai Qi with an immense, immediate strategic problem. Feeding and guarding such a multitude of prisoners would require vast resources, diverting manpower and supplies desperately needed for Qin's ongoing war effort. Furthermore, these were not common peasants. They were hardened Zhao warriors, a desperate and dangerous force capable of rebellion even in their weakened state. Qin's policy, forged in the brutal crucible of legalist thought, prioritized total victory and the annihilation of rival power, not magnanimity. The decision was cold, calculated, and utterly ruthless. Bai Qi issued an order that would forever stain his legacy and reverberate through history. Every single one of the 400,000 captured Zhao soldiers was to be executed. This was not a battlefield massacre in the heat of combat, but a deliberate, systematic extermination. The vast majority were herded into immense pits and buried alive, their final cries swallowed by the earth. Only approximately 240 young, unthreatening soldiers were intentionally spared. These few survivors were sent back to Zhao, not out of mercy, but to carry home the horrifying truth, to sow terror and despair throughout the rival state. The impact on Zhao was immediate and catastrophic. Its military strength was not merely crippled, it was annihilated. Nearly its entire male fighting population, capable of bearing arms, had been eradicated in a single, monstrous act. The demographic and military damage was irreversible, a wound from which Zhao would never recover. The plains of Changping became an army's tomb, a testament to the chilling efficiency of Qin's ambition and the unparalleled ruthlessness of its greatest general. The Battle of Changping concluded not merely in a military defeat for Zhao, but in the catastrophic annihilation of its entire fighting force, an estimated 400,000 men buried alive. This immediate and irreversible demographic collapse broke the state of Zhao, a power that had stood for generations as Qin's most formidable rival. Zhao's military capacity, its economic base, and its very population were decimated to a degree from which it would never recover. The long-term consequences of Changping were even more profound, charting the course for the unification of China. By removing its greatest challenge, Qin secured an unobstructed path to dominion. Barely 2 decades later, in 221 BC, the Qin state, under Qin Shi Huang, consolidated power, forging the first unified Chinese empire. Changping, therefore, was not merely a battle. It was the decisive conflict that fundamentally altered the geopolitical landscape of the warring states period, directly enabling the rise of a unified China. Bai Qi's calculated brutality at Changping etched his name into history as both a military genius and a terrifying figure, forever remembered as the god of slaughter, or human butcher. Yet, his strategic brilliance in achieving total victory through deception, logistical warfare, and the systematic encirclement of a vast army remains a subject of intense military study. This dark chapter became a stark warning in Chinese history against the brutal excess of total war. It stands as a chilling testament to how ambition and strategic ruthlessness could reshape a civilization's destiny at an unimaginable human cost. Its lessons on logistics, deception, and the psychological impact of war echoed through subsequent military doctrines. The scale of the atrocity, one of the largest single massacres in ancient history, ensures Changping's place as a grim, undeniable monument to the ultimate price of conflict. If this deep dive into the brutal realities of ancient warfare compels you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the History Atlas to relive these heroic pages of history, and tell us in the comments, what other ancient conflicts do you believe shaped empire?
History is full of secrets. Tap subscribe and explore more with the History Atlas.